Let's look at the up and downs of doing challenges. Welcome back to today's video. I am actually a huge fan of doing challenges, and I've done them for years in all shapes and forms. And I learned quite a few things while doing them. How can they be beneficial for you, but how can they actually be detrimental for you as well? And this is what we're going to look at in today's video. So what are the pros and what are the cons of those challenges? The pro is that it's super inspiring, it's exciting, and it's super motivating. Another pro about those challenges is that they have a set frame that you can operate in. So basically they're giving you all the layout and you just have to follow along. Super easy to do and super easy to stay committed because the scheduling, the organization part is taken away from you. All you gotta do is like press play or open up the file and just follow the instructions. Another positive side is that you are starting something new, therefore it's like super exciting or interesting, and this might make it a lot easier for you to actually follow through. But obviously there's also the other side, and those are the cons of doing such a challenge. One of the downsides of those challenges is that it promises like quick results or big results in a very short amount of time, and for some like goals that you might have, that doesn't really work. So you might have the challenge of get abs in 4 weeks or something like that, but depending on where you are in your life, it doesn't really work for you. And even though you might make progress, but you don't get the actual outcome that was promised from that challenge. And this, on the other hand, can be super demotivating and give up all the progress that you have built up until then, because at the end of those 4 weeks you're like, well, it didn't work because you didn't get that specific result, and you kind of miss out on the result that you did get instead. So one of the downsides, quote unquote, is that you're comparing yourself on the goal that they are presenting to you instead of looking how far did I come. Another downside might be that it takes some level of discipline, and this might be very challenging for some people. So even though it's just 4 weeks, at the same time 4 weeks can be very long, especially if it feels like a must, like I have to. Meaning if you, for example, want to lose weight and you do that 4 weeks weight loss challenge, but you're not really into going into the gym, but the reason you're doing the challenge is because you want to lose weight, you have kind of not the wrong motivator, but the wrong tool. So you kind of chose the wrong challenge because your goal is to lose weight. And to do that, you've chosen a vehicle that is something that you don't like, and therefore it's going to be much harder to stay disciplined and continue with it. So the one of those downsides is just looking at the title and not how you get there. It's like basically getting blinded by some shiny title. Another downside that I have often experienced with those challenges, you're super motivated, you're super consistent, and you're super disciplined, and you follow through on the whole challenge, but what then? There can be like this sense of feeling lost, because up until now, the great thing about the challenge that you were told what to do, like the structure is gone and you don't know what to do anymore, and as a consequence of that, you end up doing nothing. And this is kind of one of the downsides of those challenges, that you lose momentum after it because you don't know what comes next. You don't have a plan for the next step. Another huge downside, and that is identity. You haven't changed who you are in terms of your belief system and your subconscious mind. So what happens is, even though you have the ability or the discipline to follow through and push through and finish that challenge, you haven't changed your subconscious programming. So as soon as that challenge is over and you don't have the structure anymore, you're gonna default back to your old habit. There is another point that I wanna touch on in terms of challenges. So maybe you're not the one that followed through on the challenge, maybe you're the one who like quit in the middle of it. And often people say like, I don't have the discipline, I don't have the endurance, and this is actually not quite the case. there are several reasons on why you didn't follow through on the challenge. And again, it's from a personal experience because I have started a lot of challenges that I did not follow through. And at the same time, there were a lot of challenges that I did and I did follow through. And it has nothing to do, or actually I have found very little with discipline and a lot more with other things. One is making the challenge super easy. If you have never exercised in your entire life and all of a sudden you start that 30-day challenge of 1 hour workout each day, the problem is not that you don't have the discipline, the problem is that you're taking on too much. So like all of a sudden you're demanding a shift of your lifestyle that is quite intense and more that you can handle in that moment. So it's not about that you don't have the discipline, it's just about adjusting that challenge a little bit to your current circumstances. Do just 30 minutes or even 20 minutes because you can achieve great results with very small amount of time, and I have found this is something that often gets overlooked. By doing that challenge super easy and accessible, you're also going to do it with much more pleasure and joy, and this is what will keep you going if you actually enjoy the process. Because discipline is usually needed when you gotta do something that you don't want to do. But if you find a way to do it in a way that is enjoyable to you, you don't think about, oh, I gotta do this. You're gonna think about, oh, I get to do this. So to a certain degree, discipline is still needed, but I wouldn't even look at that as discipline because it's kind of very rigid, but much more on consistency. And the easier something is, the easier it is to stay consistent with it. Another huge con when it comes to challenges is the comparison trap. So we often compare ourselves to either the person who is doing the challenge, like offering the challenge. When we compare ourselves to the person who is offering the challenge, it's usually totally out of proportion. After the challenge is over, we expect to have the same results as they have or someone else did. But there are so many factors that play into it, and nobody can promise you a specific results in terms of a challenge, especially if they're not working with you directly and don't know your background story and your current situation. Expecting to have the same results in 4 weeks that they have trained themselves for years, it's actually quite illogical. It's actually quite stupid to be very frank, and it doesn't make sense. But for some reason, when we see those titles of Get Fit in 4 weeks, we think that it's very accessible and this is how it works, when the truth is it isn't. So as you can see, there are like many different pieces that fall into place when it comes to those challenges. It's about structure, it's about consistency, it's about discipline, and it's about momentum. On the other side, it's also about your subconscious mind, your identity, how you view yourself, and how you change your life or your lifestyle. Because it's really important that when you think of those challenges, this is not something that you do for a month, but it's really intended for you to get started on a new lifestyle. So the way I see it and have experienced it is that those 30 days challenge or challenges in general are great for the kickstart. They're gonna get you going, but they're usually not what keep you going. What keeps you going is that change of attitude, that change of lifestyle, that change of identity in terms of, okay, I want to be the person that exercises on a regular basis, or that eats in that way, or has that spiritual practice. So these are the different pros and cons that I have discovered by doing lots of different challenges. So this is it for today's video. Thank you so much for joining me, and I see you in the next one.